Imagine an enemy you cannot negotiate with. It takes no prisoners, it does not care about gold. Its jaws clamp down with the pressure of an industrial vice, turning a legionary's arm bone into rubble faster than a blacksmith's hammer strikes an anvil. The Romans first created this monster, then encased it in armor, turning it into a living instrument of terror, and then lost it to the ages. No myths about man's best friend. This is a dossier on the biological weapon of antiquity. Today, we will dissect the anatomy of the Roman war dog. We need raw physiology and tactics. We will look inside the legion's armory to see the bladed collars that turned an animal into a running meat grinder. And we will reconstruct a battle where a pack of dogs breaks the formation of elite cavalry, sowing panic where steel had failed. Brush the dust off the popular myths. If you picture a Roman dog as a fat mastiff the size of a bear, forget it. In a real legion, such a dog would have collapsed on the second day of marching. A legion means 30 kilometers of marching a day. They did not feed dead weight, they ate it. The real Canis Molassus was a bundle of sinew and malice weighing about 60 kilograms. Imagine a modern cane corso, only dry. This was not a bodybuilder on a stage, but a mixed martial arts fighter in the lightweight division, capable of fighting 5 rounds without losing its breath. The Romans did not create it from scratch. They took the prototype from the Greeks, a shepherd dog that had been killing wolves for centuries. Roman engineers simply flipped a switch in the beast's head. The code "protect the flock from wolves" was rewritten to "protect the legion from humans." The Romans took natural fury and encased it in a framework of discipline. The generals smugly rubbed their hands together, believing they had the best infantry and the best dogs in the world. But then the legions landed on the foggy shores of Britain, and there they met something that made the Roman dogs tuck their tails between their legs. Britain welcomed the legions not with rain, but with a growl that made blood run cold. When the Celts unleashed their dogs, the Roman soldiers went into shock. Their praised molossers, used to dominating, suddenly found themselves as the victims. The historian Strabo called the local creatures black demons and swore that a British dog would charge a bull alone. This was a tractor covered in fur, rough, primal power with no brakes. The Romans acted like a ruthless corporation seeing a competitor with better technology. They decided to steal it. Importing these beasts became a strategic mission for the empire. Instead of laboratory genetics, the brutal practice of arenas and military camps did the work. Roman handlers crossed the disciplined molossers with the British berserkers. The Pugnaces Britanniae, the dogs of Britain, were born. The ideal hybrid, the brain of a tactician and the rage of a maniac. It was as if a special forces soldier had been injected with a lethal dose of adrenaline, but kept a cool head. Rome had obtained the perfect biological chassis. But the war machine knew even a perfect killer dies from a rusty knife in the side. The living tank needed armor. A war dog is an expensive asset. Losing it to a stray arrow means throwing money to the wind. So they dressed the dogs. No shining plate armor, only rough bull leather, boiled in oil, hard as wood. It covered the sides and the back. For the elite units, patches of chainmail were sewn on. The smell was terrible. Rancid oil, wet fur, iron. This armor gave them a chance to survive the first seconds of the melee and latch onto a throat. But the most important piece was the collar. This was not an accessory, but a weapon. A wide corset studded with sharpened blades. This device had 2 tasks: to protect the throat and to turn the dog into a living saw. The dog did not even need to bite. It just had to run through the tight formation of the enemy. Sharp spikes ripped open the unprotected legs of the infantry. It is a running trap. You strike the beast, and as it dodges, it slices your shin down to the bone with a simple movement of its body. Now the legion had a soldier in armor and with a weapon. It remained only to find the right use for him, turning chaos into tactics. There is a line where war turns into a hunt, and the Romans knew how to corner prey. They did not need cheap tricks like flaming pots on the dogs' backs. Those are fairy tales for the impressionable. The reality was scarier. Their weapons were sound and speed.
Imagine the roar of 100 throats drowning out the clash of shields. The Romans used packs for cleanup and pursuit. When the enemy line broke and ran, a heavy infantryman in armor could not catch a light barbarian, but a dog could. This was not a battle, but a slaughter. A pack of demons raced after those who showed their backs. The predator's instinct drove them after the runners. The dog would latch onto the hamstring, drag the man to the ground, and hold him until a legionary arrived. The barbarians saw this not as a military tactic, but as a punishment from the heavens. Warriors who laughed in the face of death fell into a stupor. The battle was won in their minds before the first bite. But chaos is dangerous. A pack of maddened monsters could turn around and bite their own. To manage this hell, they needed men ready to risk their lives every second.
Dogs did not fight on their own. In the real hell of battle, an uncontrollable pack is a death sentence for your own side. Behind every monster stood a handler, and this was not friendship. This was the work of a sapper. These guys lived on a powder keg. In the chaos where screams drown in the clash of metal, the dog had to hear one whistle, his master's whistle. The handler was a suicide trooper. If a stray arrow killed him, the safety catch was blown. The dog would stop seeing the difference between a Roman tunic and barbarian trousers. A beast in armor losing control could start tearing apart everything alive within the radius of its chain. In formation, they were held like a loaded weapon, ready to fire. Picture it, a wall of shields, and in the narrow gaps, dogs wheeze and tear at their chains. They smell fear. They hear the enemy's heartbeat. Foam drips onto their armor. The handlers wrap leather leashes around their fists until their bones crack, holding back living death. The leash is not control. It is a fuse. The generals waited for the moment. Did the enemy flinch? The command is given. Chains fall into the mud. The living battering ram launches forward. But the dogs delivered their most terrifying effect not against infantry. Their finest hour came when the cavalry entered the field.
We have reached the meat. The dogs were fed premium beef, not to hunt people. They were taught to break cavalry formations. An ancient rider in armor is a tank. To knock him down head-on is almost impossible. But his transport has a bug in its firmware, an ancient genetic fear of predators. When the dogs flew onto the field, perfectly drilled horses suddenly remembered that they were prey. The dog did not need to topple the horse with weight. That is physically impossible. It needed to create panic. They worked like wolves, attacking from below, biting soft tissues, nostrils, or the groin. Pain and the scent of a predator struck the horse's brain. The horse would go mad, rear up, throwing the rider, and breaking its own formation. The result was always the same. The attack choked. A rider in heavy armor lying on the ground is just a can of meat that the legionaries only had to open. It was a perfect combination. Symbiosis driven to the absolute. It seemed this technology would last forever, but one day the dogs disappeared, and the reason was not the strength of the enemy.
Let us imagine the finale of such a battle. The field is littered with corpses, a bloody mist, and in the middle of the chaos stands a Roman dog. Its armor is slashed, its muzzle is crusted with foreign blood. The shaft of a spear sticks out of its side. Steam rolls from its mouth in clouds, but it does not whine and it does not run away. It looks at the handler and it waits. It waits for the next command. In this image lies the entire essence of Rome, cruel efficiency that suppressed nature. They took a beast, broke its will, and turned it into a tool. The perfect soldier asks for no wages, does not mutiny, serves until its heart stops. The peak of bioengineering of the ancient world.
But where did they go? Why do armies today not unleash packs of mastiffs? The answer is as cynical as Rome itself: money. The dogs did not lose the war. They lost to accounting. Maintaining a legion of meat-eaters, treating them, transporting them, and training them for years became unprofitable. It is cheaper to hire archers than to raise a single combat pack. Economics defeated biology. They were not defeated, they were downsized. But they did not disappear. Look at a modern mastiff. Those heavy folds of skin on the neck are not for beauty. This is biological armor, created to slide in the enemy's teeth, saving the artery. evolutionary memory of battles. The empire crumbled into dust, but the living monuments of that era sleep on the rugs in our homes. They snore peacefully, but somewhere deep in their DNA, they are still holding the line and waiting for the command.